Woohoo! Welcome to statistics. This is awesome. You must be really brave to take online statistics. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to have you in this class. In this video, I want to show you the new Brightspace. It's called D2L Daylight here. It's the new D2L, and it's not that different, but I do want to show it to you. Most importantly, I don't want to show you just the new features. I want to show you how my course works. And so even if this system, you're watching this video well after I've recorded it, and this system is old to you, you won't know how my course is set up in this system. So that's the main purpose of this video. And then I do have a secondary purpose. That's also to help you get started on the very first day of class. So I have a whole bunch of things that are due on the very first day of class, and I want you to know what those are before class starts so that you will have a jump start on what's expected of you. And you can even, if you look at the email, it has details of the instructions and the rubrics, so you can even get started before the first day of class if you want to. So on the first day of class, there are several things that are expected. Number one, in the morning of the first day of class, which half the time classes start on Saturday, and so that means that you may be sleeping in on Saturdays, so you really need to be on the ball to get this done because it's due by 11:59 a.m. of the very first day of class. And again, you can do this ahead of time if you want to and just have it ready to post as soon as you gain access at 12:01, a minute after midnight. Or you can wait till you wake up in the morning, but be sure to wake up in the morning so that you'll have enough time to post it. You definitely want to follow the rubric and the instructions because how you're graded depends on how well you've answered all of the questions in instructions. It also depends on if you posted by the morning of the first day of class or not, and several other things. We'll talk about the rubric when we get there. And then by the evening of the first day of class, numbers 2, 3, and 4 need to be done. So really this whole list is the first 24 hours that the class is open, that these things need to be done. Some of that time you may be sleeping, so you'll have, of course, a little less than 24 hours to complete them if you don't start before the first day of class. So number 2, we want you to form a group, and that's going to be done in the class introductions thread and from number 1 as well. You're going to post stuff about how you would make a good group member in class introductions, and you may even say some traits that you're looking for of other group members. Maybe you want the group to meet online. Maybe you need the group to meet online because you're not located in the Clarksville area, and so you can specify kind of what you're looking for. I would recommend being pretty flexible too if you can. Obviously, if you're out of the country, you cannot meet face to face, but I would try to recommend being as flexible as possible because you want the best group that's possible, and there may be some attributes that you don't get, but you get a better group because of that. The best groups go first, so the earlier that you post these things, the earlier that you respond, the earlier that you get in there and really try to get a group, the better group that you will be in. And that's awesome because 15% of your grade for the course, it comes from these group projects. And number 3, you'll want to do the pretest for the course. Don't worry too much about how you score on the pretest. Don't worry at all about how you score on the pretest, except to say that you've tried your best. So that's all that I'm looking for on that. So the pretest is a required element. It will qualify you to earn some potential extra credit at the end of the course, depending on how well you do on the post-test. And then there are also all of these orientation videos. So you'll want to watch the orientation videos. There are not a whole lot of them. And there are chapter 1 videos. Again, there are not a whole lot of them, but it all adds up. You will want to take notes, especially on the chapter 1 videos, because the last thing that you have to do will those notes will help you on that. And as a matter of fact, you may want to read the deep dive discussion before you watch the chapter 1 videos and before you start taking notes. By reading what's required of you in the chapter 1 discussion, you'll have an idea of, oh, hey, I need to know about population and I need to know about sample. I should pay attention when these are discussed because they're part of, I need to know what an inferential statistic is. I need to know what a descriptive statistic is. So if you've read the requirements for the discussion before you actually watch the videos, and I would do this not just for chapter 1, but for all chapters as well, then you'll have a really good idea of the things that you're looking for in the deep dive discussion. The deep dive discussions are very challenging. They also have detailed instructions and a rubric, and your grade will depend on how well you follow the rubric. Your grade will depend on how accurately you answer all of the questions in discussions, which is actually two of the parts of the rubric are accuracy and critical thinking, and they both revolve around how well you have addressed every single question that's being asked in the discussion, in the deep dive discussion. So that's enough about that. Let's take a look at the course. In the course, I want to show you the class introductions thread, the thread where the module where you'll be able to see the pretest, the orientation videos, and the chapter 1 videos, and the chapter 1 deep dive discussion, and some other things as well, not just first day stuff, but first day stuff will certainly be in here. Okay, so I'm logging in with my Austin Peay credentials. I should have said that before I logged in, but your Austin Peay credentials should be your last name, your first initial, and maybe some numbers. And hopefully you know that, but if you don't know that, you can message me and I will be able to look that up for you. I can't look up your username. I believe your username by default, if you've never changed it, should be capital A, lowercase p, capital A, and then the rest of your A number, usually some zeros and then some other numbers. So I won't tell you your password, but I will tell you your username if you need it. Also, I should have said before I logged in, I really like to go to elearn.apsu.edu to log in instead of going through One Stop. So let me say that again, elearn, so that's the letter E and then the word learn, L-E-A-R-N. Don't want to spell that wrong, do I? And it's all one word, so it's E-L-E-A-R-N. And then it's dot, and then APSU, of course, Austin Peay State University, and then .edu. So I like to go there directly, so you can type that right in the address bar at the top of your browser, and you can go there directly. You can log in with your Austin Peay credentials and click login, and that'll take you to this page. And I want to talk about this page a little bit, or at least some elements. I'm going to skip a lot of the elements because I think you can discover those on your own. There are also videos in Linda or maybe somewhere else. If you want to know where more videos are, I can try to look that up for you. Again, if you ever have any questions like that, just message me. So across the top, we have this link, and it will always be here no matter what page you are on. You can be inside your course, you can be in discussions. If you scroll to the top, you will always see this. And this will take you to the page that we're on right now, this home page. As a matter of fact, if you hover over it, it says My Home. So this is the home page of D2L, which is also called Brightspace, which is also called Daylight. But it's the new D2L, new for us now. This is cool. It was on the old course before, but it didn't look quite like this. New though is you can pin stuff to the top, so you can say, oh, statistics is my favorite course. I like it so much better than all of my other courses. I'm going to pin it to the top. And then these are not pinned, but you can just click on them and that'll pin them. So if I click on that, that'll pin it. But I'm not going to pin it because it's not a statistics course, so why would I pin it, right? And then the next link, the next icon is an envelope icon, which is obviously your email, or I say obviously, if you've used the old D2L a lot, then you know that the envelope is your email. I've got some emails about my Dropbox receipts. That's all I've done in here pretty much. But you'll probably get emails from me or other instructors, maybe even some emails from your classmates, but they'll probably message you outside of D2L. And then here, this is your discussions link. So if you have posted in a discussion, and somebody responds to you, then you'll get a message in here. You may get other messages even if people aren't responding directly to you. I think that might depend on the settings, the way you have things set up. And then this will give you news items. Like if there's a new news item, you'll see it in here. If you've had stuff graded, you'll see it in here. Obviously, you can see I've had some stuff graded. If your instructor, if I modify anything, you'll probably see it in here too. The very first time you log in, you'll see a whole bunch of this stuff because it's like every news item is new to you because you haven't read it yet, so it'll all be under here. So most of the time when you're brand new to the course, if you're logging in on the morning of the course, you can pretty much ignore this because you're going to have to read in everything anyway on the new announcements. And then we're going to go into the course. So this icon right here is my current icon that's set for your class as well. This isn't the right name for your class. This is just a little sandbox, but I've set it up exactly like my class that I'm about to teach tomorrow. I'm doing this video a little late. Sorry about that. But I probably will keep the same icon for a while, or if I change it, it will still be a statistics icon. It will probably still have charts on it, and it will probably still have a computer on it. So it will kind of be an instant visual recognition of, hey, this is my online statistics class. So I can click on it and get in there. I have the banner across the top. Probably most of your courses won't have the banner across the top as well, but that's another visual reinforcement of, hey, I'm in the right class. On the first time you log in, I recommend at least scanning all of these. They will help you get started, as a lot of them say, and give you a lot of options for things that I'm not going to mention in this video because they're right there. The calendar is awesome. This says 12:01. I'm hopefully going to change that if I can. It should say 11:59 a.m. because I don't expect anything to be due at 12:01. But I do expect it to be due at 11:59. So it says by morning of the first day. And that's really what we talked about here. The first day, you've got to post in class introductions. So that's what this is. You've got to do at least your first post in the class introductions. And that includes finding a group as well. And then by the end of the first day, you've got to do your Chapter 1 first post in Chapter 1 discussions. And it doesn't mention the two other things that I talked about, watching all of those videos and finding a group. But finding a group is part of this expectation to get full credit, and watching the videos you should do before you do this. So it doesn't have everything, it just has the stuff that's for credit, but you should definitely pay attention to these and do the other things that were listed to get full credit for those. So that's the first page of the course. I'm going to take us through content where, as the name implies, you've got the bulk of the content for the entire course. So most of your time should be spent in this area. The very first time you log in, you'll see this overview message, which basically tells you some helpful hints that I've already told you about the icons at the top, and that I'm about to tell you about. If you want to see content, you just click on this link table of contents, and you can see the entire table of contents. Now, it might not drill down into submodules. There aren't any submodules on getting started, but like here you'll see there are 5 items in this area. It doesn't say how many items are in this area, I guess because it's not required. But there are 5 items in this area, there are several items in this area, there are 3 items in this area. So sometimes it won't drill down, but it'll certainly show you an overview, a very large overview of the entire course. I've got some support links at the bottom, so if you need to contact the help desk, they don't use that name anymore, but I still use it because that's what they are. They're the help desk. They are only for technology help, though. Don't call them if you need help babysitting or anything like that. They probably won't help you very much in that respect. But if you need any technological help, like with Microsoft Word or that sort of thing that is related to your Austin Peay classwork, you can certainly contact them. Distance education, it deals with specifically D2L Brightspace Daylight, whatever you want to call it. So you can contact them if that's a D2L problem. And Pearson is another system that you'll be using, signing up for, and so you can contact them. Academic support is, like the name implies, if you need some help with tutoring. I'll show you another tutoring link too that's probably even better because it's 24/7. But for all tutoring and for asking me questions, which you can do as well if you get stuck on any homework problems, that's not including the quiz problems, and it's certainly not including the exam problems, but if you get stuck on any homework problems, you can have tutoring or you can ask me. If you get stuck on any discussion problems, you can only ask me about the discussions. And if you get stuck on projects, you can ask your team members or tutoring or me if you get stuck on those. But before you ask for help on tutoring or even ask me, I ask that you attempt the problem completely for at least 5 minutes, that you spend at least 5 minutes on the problem. And then if you're tutoring, I would recommend that you keep going and finish the entire assignment, and then at the end of the assignment, call for the tutoring support and ask about all of the problems that you could not figure out on your own. If you're going to ask me, though, I would say right as you have a problem that you can't answer and you've spent at least 5 minutes on the problem and haven't been able to answer it, using all of your resources, like your notes that you took on the videos themselves in your textbook, and you still, in the formula card, that's your biggest resource in the calculator. If you've used all those resources and you still can't answer, then I definitely recommend that you ask me about it in discussions. And so there are a couple of places, and I'll show you when we get there, where you can ask questions like that in discussions. And then you have a couple of other support links as well. Let's talk about getting started. Remind is very important. I hope you've already signed up for it before the first day of class, but if you haven't, then definitely sign up for it here. One of the most important things you can do to ensure that you actually pass this course, or especially if you want to do more than pass the course and pass it with an A or a B or even a C, then you definitely want to sign up for Remind. I would say that it makes you at least twice as likely to succeed in this course. It may even do 3 times as likely to succeed in this course. So it won't take long. Go ahead and sign up for Remind on your phone, and that will send messages and alerts to your phone every single time we have an assignment due. If we have multiple assignments due that day, then the message will list those assignments, and so it will say, here's your list of assignments that are due today. And I usually send them out in the mornings, and so you'll usually get it that morning, and it'll say that night. Sometimes I send it out early afternoons, but I try to leave a few hours in there. Now, if you don't want to wait to the day something is due to do it, and I recommend working ahead in this course as much as possible, then you should look at the syllabus. And really, you should print out the first page of the syllabus. Let me show you the syllabus. I recommend printing out this first page. And so hopefully this first page will go all the way to here when you print it out. I think it will. And this is your due date for everything in the entire course. And you have it laid out in order. And so you can say, hey, here's the things that are due on the very first day of the course. And we've already talked about them in detail. It only looks like 2 things here, but in parentheses I have the other 2 things. So the finding a group and the getting started videos and the chapter 1 videos. So I have everything in here that's required for a grade. Remind will give you more detail than this, though, so I would still, even if you're going to follow this and work ahead, I would still recommend signing up for Remind, because Remind will give you a little more group details, like it will tell the leader, hey leader, you should post assignments by today. If you have enough time, I would recommend reading this entire syllabus in detail on or before the first day of class. However, if you're crunched for time, just pay attention to this first part on the first day of class, especially the stuff that's due the first day of class, and then save the rest of it for the second day of class. Print it out, save the rest of it for the second day of class. And then finding a group, that's an assignment that you want to complete by the end of the first day of class. So if you need help, if you feel that you need help on tips and tricks for finding the best group, you can go there. You will want to print the formula card and the tables, but you can set them aside. You want to print the paper homework, but you can set it aside as well. You can, if you want to, skip these next few things until you've had more time, but the third or fourth day, or maybe the fifth day, you'll have assignments due in Pearson. So I recommend going ahead and signing up for it by the second day and logging in if you don't have time to do it the first day. This you can skip altogether for the whole course if you want to, but I want you to know it's there for you. Basically, when you go to do these deep dive discussions, you'll watch the short videos in each chapter before you post in discussions. If you feel like that's not enough information to help you answer, you can use the textbook, you can use your lecture notes, but if you still feel like that's not enough, then this is a great place to turn to, because I've recorded my entire face-to-face class lectures in here, and they are long, and they are detailed, and they have lots of examples, so many more examples than the short videos you'll be required to watch. I don't want to require that much time, and that's why these are optional and not required. But if you ever get to a chapter where you feel like you need extra, then these are here for you. At the end of this section and at the end of all of the chapter module sections, you'll find how to find the quiz password, because the quiz password for each chapter module is actually hidden below this. It's hidden until you do certain things, and you can find out what things you need to do by clicking on this link. And I won't tell you that because you can just go ahead and read it. Under getting started, that's what we just went over. Under the orientation in chapter 1, you'll see there are 3 submodules, and so we couldn't see before what videos. We just saw 5. That there were 5 things in this section that were required, but now we can see what those 5 things are. We also see the class introductions, and we see optional, and again I recommend skipping that on the first day. Come back to it though if you're not terribly comfortable with how to navigate your calculator, especially if you're not even comfortable doing arithmetic on your calculator, adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing. Then I would strongly recommend coming back to these on the second day of class and making sure you're comfortable. For every chapter, usually at the beginning, I think chapter 1's the only exception because we've got some orientation stuff at the beginning of the chapter 1 section. But usually at the beginning, the very first thing you'll see is objectives and tasks. If I click on this link, I will see this objectives and tasks. And it will almost always look like this, where it will have for every section a picture that will give you the learning objectives. And of course, this is a picture of the slides that you'll see in the video and on the lecture notes for each section. So they'll be there as well if you don't click on this. And then it gives the tasks. And of course, the tasks are several different places too. You'll get remind messages about them, and they're on the syllabus and they're in the calendar. But I kind of like having a page where you can say, these are the things that I'm going to learn here on the left, and these are the ways that I'm going to learn them on the right. So all of this is going to support my learning all of this. And then going back to D2L, so you can look at objectives and tasks. That's optional. I think lecture notes may be optional too, but I very strongly recommend that you look at lecture notes. And I'm going to click on this link, and it brings up the lecture notes for chapter 1, and you'll see these are just pictures of slides. And when you watch the video, it will be these slides, except it'll be one at a time. Like, you'll first see this slide, and then I will go to this slide, and you'll see it, and I write on this slide, I believe, and then you'll see this one and this one. I don't probably spend too much time on this, and this one and this one. Okay, and so you can write notes on these lecture notes if you want to. I recommend it, writing notes on these lecture notes, and then you can see exactly what we discussed. And so when you go back to review for the exams, or even when you're doing your homework and you've kind of forgotten what was in the videos, you will have these notes helpful for you. So I recommend printing these out and writing on top of them. I strongly recommend it, actually, as you go through the course. And then when you have a page like this, like you've already opened the lecture notes in a separate tab, you can go back to the module by clicking this link, or you can go back to all of the table of contents by clicking here. Let us go to the module. And so here you want to do this on the morning of the first day. You want to do this all by the evening of the first day. You'll want to skip these things, and you can skip this if you want to. I would not recommend skipping this. You'll want to do this by the evening of the first day, so watch all the videos for the course. So here I'll jump ahead, and you can see where I've marked on the videos, and so you can see that I'm actually doing stuff. Again, you don't have to take detailed notes on this, but if you want to, especially if I'm doing some computational stuff, it's kind of nice. And then let's go back to D2L, and let's go back to the orientation in Chapter 1. I think we're almost done with this one. So this stuff is the morning of the first day. This is the by the evening of the first day. Skip if you if you're pressed for time, which you probably will be. And then print, and then do these by the evening of the first day. And then those especially these videos will help prepare you to answer these questions. And you will want to answer these questions in great detail. And I recommend, like it asks for your sample, you need to use the word sample so that I know you've answered that question. So say this, in this scenario, the sample is blah, blah, blah. In this scenario, sorry, not in this sample, in this scenario, the population is blah, blah, blah. Now, you wouldn't have to use a specific example of descriptive statistics, but I definitely recommend using the word descriptive, and probably descriptive statistics, when you're giving me the specific example. I recommend using the term inferential statistics, at least the word inferential, but probably the whole inferential statistics term when you're giving me that answer. Parameter when you're giving me that answer, and statistic when you're giving me that answer. That way I know what your answers are. You'll be writing in full and complete sentences. You won't be using these bullets. You'll have it in nice paragraphs. But every time you answer questions in discussions or in projects, be sure to label your answers with the terms that are being used so that it is obvious to the reader, and especially to your instructor who's grading it, that you are answering that particular question at that time. Also, be 100% sure that you're right about these things, because your very first post on the chapter deep dives are the ones that are graded for 50% of your credit for that post. Is dependent on accurately answering all of these things that are asked in the very first post. You won't be able to see other discussions until you have posted first, and that's one of the reasons why the very first post, even if it gets deleted, even if it gets edited, the very first original post is what's going to be graded for the accuracy and for the completion. So be very careful when you're making your very first post. You may want to write it in Word first and then copy and paste it over. That way you don't actually accidentally click post before you're done. That would be bad. So that is that, let me click on this and see if we can see the rubric from here. Oh, yes. Yay. So every time that you make a required post, and this should be both in the chapter discussion, or the chapter discussions, and in your class introduction discussions, I recommend looking at the rubric, because that's how you'll be graded. You will be graded based on how many questions you answer in the rubric. And so I'll try to see the whole rubric here. I think we can pretty much see the whole rubric here. So your entire post, does it contain accurate statements that precisely answer every aspect of the topic? That would be awesome if it did. That doesn't happen very often, but it does happen some. So that's certainly your goal, is to get a full 4 points for accuracy. And really, if you're completely accurate about a topic, then you will almost certainly be getting full critical thinking credit as well. These two are kind of tied together, and so they'll be. Sometimes I'll do a little less for one and a little more for another, especially if it's kind of you've scored in between two areas. I'll do less for one and more for the other. Timeliness. If you have posted on time, which by the end of the first day for this Chapter 1 deep dive, by the morning of the first day for the class introductions, and then this is the contributions. You want 3 insightful posts. One of them needs to improve accuracy of the original post. So this is where you're responding to other students. You look at their first post and you make a response. And you need to do that for at least 3 students, and it needs to be very insightful in analyzing what they have posted, and you need to, at least on one of them, recommend how they could have improved their post and give that information to them in a very respectful way, of course. And then I'm going to look at grammar too, like I said before. So be sure every time that you make a post in class introductions or the Chapter 1 or Chapter 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 deep dives, that you look at that rubric and make sure you're doing all of those things. And then you'll notice that I don't see any posts, and I think I forgot to post in here, but even if there had been 50 posts in here, I wouldn't be able to see any of them right now, no matter what I clicked on, until I clicked to start a new thread and did a subject in here and did content in here and then clicked post. So I'm not going to be able to see anything until I do that. And then, of course, you don't want to make your posts like this. You want to make sure your first post is accurate, because that's what both the accuracy and the critical thinking are based on, the first post that you make. I don't have any other posts in here. This is the only one, and so there isn't anything else in here. But if there had been, then there would be a whole lot of posts I could see after I make my first post. Let's see. Is there anything else? I don't think there's anything else we really need to go over. I think we've talked about most of it. I'll just remind you that, hey, at the end of each quiz, you'll need to watch all the videos, post your posts in discussions, and respond insightfully and substantially to at least 3 other posts and discussions before you're allowed to see the quiz password. And then the quiz password should appear right here. So if I had done all those things, of course I didn't respond 3 times, and so I haven't done all of those things. I haven't watched all the videos either, which you can tell because I have 1 check mark but not these 2 check marks. Also, these videos are required, and I don't have check marks on them yet either. So you can tell I've not watched all of the videos yet, so I haven't qualified to see the password yet. But when you do qualify, it would be right down here. So I think that's all I'm going to talk about, except for an overview. Again, every pre-project or project is going to have a link to discussions. In the project discussions, You aren't absolutely required to post. Those posts aren't graded literally, but they do affect your project grades. So how quickly the leader posts assignments and their due dates, and who should be doing what part of the big projects, projects 1, 2, and 3, the leader should post this, who should be doing what part. So I'm going to look at that when I determine the leader's group grade. I'm going to look at individuals and when they submitted their parts that they were assigned and the quality of those parts when I determine the individual grade. So you will want to post a lot in project discussions. On the first few days, you'll want to post your contact information and when you can meet, because you'll need to meet on like the second or the third day, maybe the fourth day depending on the term, but you're going to want to meet right away. So as soon as you get access to the project discussions, you're going to want to go in there and you're going to want to say your name and your phone number and when you can meet and how you'd like to meet, that sort of thing, and get organized right away. And then every single pre-project or project 1 or project 2, all of these are going to have a link to discussions, a link to the description, and the description is usually really long, how the entire report should be laid out, the instructions for the report, and you should read that entire thing, or at least scan it. You should read what you're responsible for in detail, but you want to read the entire thing because the entire report is going to be part of your grade. So you were particularly responsible for what the group leader assigned you, that part of the report, but your grade will be based on the whole report. So definitely read the whole thing, even though it's long. Here's the Dropbox. Every project will also have a Dropbox. And then after the Dropbox, and this is the instruction stuff too, so it's the same stuff that you have in description pretty much. After the Dropbox, if you're on the projects 1, 2, and 3 areas, you're also going to have a link to submit peer reviews, because your individual grades are going to be based on how well you did, the quality of your contributions, the timeliness of your contributions, and I'm going to have students tell me how you did down here in these peer reviews. And that won't happen for the pre-project report, although do let me know if there were problems with participation in the pre-project report. That should be evident a little bit in the meetings and in the group discussions. But if you want to make sure that I know if there was a particular problem, please let me know that. So that's pretty much all of content. Under tasks, excuse me, under tasks, we will use the Dropbox a lot. We will use quizzes only twice though, and you'll probably be with me when we use the quizzes as well, so I'm not going to go over that. Just the 2 exams are in here essentially. Under Dropbox, you'll see all of the different Dropboxes, and I've already submitted. You can see 1 submission. And you would probably see this too if a group member of mine had submitted instead of myself. I actually submitted this one, but you would see this. And you would see this after it's graded. Now, usually it's not going to be until well after the due date that it's graded. I'm cheating a little bit here so I can record this video and get it to you before the class starts. View feedback will allow me to see the feedback. Absolutely, I recommend that you look at the feedback before you do the next project, because that way you can kind of get an understanding of how it's graded. Now, without the points marked and the feedback here, you can see the rubric when you go to submit, and I'm going to show you that in a second for project 1. So every single group member, not just the group member who is submitting, but every single group member should look at the rubric and make sure that the report that was submitted meets every single item in the rubric and answers it clearly, accurately, and completely. So make sure it's clear, because it's got to use those same terms, that the question was asking for, so that I know that this is definitely your answer. That will make it clear. Make it complete by answering every single part and thoroughly answering the question that's being asked, and then make it accurate. Check your work by looking it up in the textbook, by looking at your formula card, by making sure that it's correct, by having all of your group members do the calculations themselves. If 5 people have done it and 5 people all come up with the same answer, then it's probably accurate. But if you aren't doing the work yourself that another person was assigned, then chances are you're going to have a very low group score, especially if all the group members are doing that, not checking each other's work. And your individual grade will get bumped up hugely if you do check the work of your peer members, because you'll post about it in your group discussions. I will see all the corrections you have made to the report, to other people's parts of their report, and that will be a huge boon in your favor. I will definitely give you more points if you have contributed a lot to other parts of the report. And then here you can see the submission. It won't be a JPEG, it'll be a document, a Word document, hopefully, that has been submitted. And then I can see comments if they were submitted. I can even see other members of the group if I have them here. Let me show you how to submit. To submit, you'd click on the project itself. And the first thing you'll be shown is maybe a little bit of a project description, and then definitely the rubric. So you can check and make sure you have all of the elements here before you even submit, if you are the submitter. If you are a member of the group, you can go back and click on that one that it saw, and it will show you all of this stuff. And then I clicked on my computer. Maybe I should go back and do that again. So I click on Add File to submit. I have to submit a file, and so I've got to click on Add File. And then you probably don't have it in your ePortfolio, I doubt, although you may, but I don't think you will. And so you're going to click on My Computer, and then I like to drag and drop, so I'm going to bring up my Finder, and we'll do the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe picture. But you would do your document. It would actually be a Word document that you would have labeled as pre-project _ group 1 or group 5 or whatever group you're in, and you would load that there, and it would say .docx. And then the next thing I'm going to do is add, and then I can write some comments here if I want to, and then I have to click submit because I haven't submitted it yet. I've added it, but the instructor won't be able to see it until I click submit, and my other colleagues won't be able to see it until I click submit. So I have to click submit. Now, once I click submit, it's going to email me, but it doesn't do it like as soon as I click submit. That's just too soon for it. However, by the time I click done, it says confirmation email sent successfully. By the time I click done, it should have a little orange dot up here to indicate that I have been emailed on my Dropbox email. And if I click it, it will say, yes, just now you have submitted something to the Dropbox. And so that's what I just did. And so that means it got submitted successfully. Let's see, we have covered Dropbox. You can do quizzes if you want to. I'm not going to show you them. You can do rubrics if you wanted to, but I would really recommend looking at the rubrics in the Dropboxes themselves. So if you want to see the Group 2 rubric, just click on Group 2. If you want to see a rubric for discussions, you can click on Communication Discussions to get there. Of course, you can also get there through Content, and then you can click on Discussions. I'm not sure if the rubric shows for class introductions, but it does show up for the other ones. And so let's see if it shows up here. Yeah, it does. So I'm going to try to figure that out and have it show up for the class introductions too, because I want you to be able to see it. Definitely want you to be able to see it. So I'll work with that and try to make sure that's done for you. Let's see, what else do we need? You can look at class list. I'm not going to show you how, but that's a good way to email people if you want to in D2L. I think Remind is a better way to message people, or with your groups, you'll hopefully have all their cell phone numbers so you can just text them, and that may be the best way to contact people. And then discussions, we've gone over. Groups. If you email me who's in your group, then I can add you to the group, so you wouldn't ever need to go there, really. And then resources. You can look at the calendar if you want to, especially if you want a whole overview of the course in like a calendar type format, so you can get an idea of the pacing and when you need to work ahead and when you don't. I'm not going to show you that though, because we already saw it a little bit on the first page, and we have Remind in the syllabus as well. I'm going to come back to grades. We'll look at some grades, and that'll be cool. Subject-specific tutoring. This is the first time that we've had tutor.com, I think. I may be wrong about that, but I think it is. And that's pretty awesome because you've got access to 24/7 tutoring. However, tutoring is always a double-edged sword. And as I said, don't use tutoring until you've attempted the problem for at least 5 minutes yourself. And I would go through the entire homework and have all of the problems that I'm having trouble with before I call tutoring, spending at least 5 minutes on every single problem, and then just asking about the ones that you couldn't get on your own. Before you go to tutoring, though, there are also some great resources that you might want to use, like your formula card, your textbook, your lecture notes that you've written on top of, and so on and so forth. And then the last thing we'll look at is grades. Here you can see the graded rubric. So this is awesome. You'll know why you scored the way you scored. I didn't score very well on my introduction post, and so I can look at it, and it says, hey, you didn't post on the first day of class. And you didn't form a group by the end of the first day of class. So that, hurt a little bit. A second thing was that you didn't share your time management. You mentioned time and the time you were going to spend in the course, but you didn't give specific days and you didn't give specific times. And so there's no time management. So that really hurt. And then you did provide some evidence of skills, but it wasn't great evidence of your experience and your skills and your knowledge and your practice. So you got most credit there. You did great on contribution, and then delivery and clarity, like grammar, in other words. You did okay there, but it could have been better. Let's see. Oh, you also have your score and your pre-project feedback, but you don't have a link to the rubric here. I hope someday that you will have a link to the rubric here, and I may try to ask about how to do that. It may not be possible, though, with group projects for the rubric to get over here into. You can always look at the rubric from Task Dropbox for the Dropboxes. I also want to mention that this is not the entire course. All of the stuff that's in Pearson is not going to be put into D2L. I am going to take all of the stuff that's in D2L and put it into Pearson, though. So your Pearson gradebook would have your overall score for the entire course, and you can always look there. It won't have access to the rubric, though, for discussions, and so I would recommend using this to look at the rubric discussions. And so that is Brightspace, and that is the first day of the course, and I thank you very much. And message me if you ever have any questions. Thank you.